The Louisiana Purchase. How did we get it? Why did we get it? And why is it important? After the American Revolution, the new border of the United States was the Mississippi River. The Mississippi River went from up in the Great Lakes, down, and it comes out to the Gulf of Mexico in New Orleans. The territory west of the Mississippi belonged to Spain. France had lost all their territory in North America after the French and Indian War. At the end of the war, the only territory France had was the Caribbean in the island of what is now Haiti. Problems in Europe. The French Revolution broke out in 1787. Thomas Jefferson and others were excited that the idea of democracy was spreading all over Europe, and before you know it, all the monarchies would be overthrown with democracy. But the French Revolution became violent, unlike the American Revolution. During the American Revolution, the United States had a treaty with France and the king, and that put the United States in a difficult position. Support the democracy or support the king. George Washington, during his presidential term, issued a neutrality proclamation that the United States would not be involved at all. As the French Revolution continued, Napoleon Bonaparte becomes the Emperor of France. He sees the importance of the Spanish territory west of the Mississippi, so he gets Spain to return the territory to France. Meanwhile, a slave revolt in Haiti breaks out and France loses the island. The Mississippi River is very important. It is a navigable river that allows large boats to travel down to the Gulf of Mexico, around Florida, to the Atlantic Ocean. So farmers in the Ohio River Valley can transport goods to market on the eastern seaboard. The Appalachian Mountains blocked the way of direct access. It is important for you to understand in this unit the importance of geography. You need to know that the Appalachian Mountains are here. The Mississippi River goes, it's out of the picture, but it goes this way. So if you are a farmer here in the Ohio Valley, you can get to the Mississippi, take the stuff out, down, and then your ship can sail up and around to the Atlantic seaboard like that, because the Appalachian Mountains block the way here. Meanwhile, the United States had a treaty with Spain called a Right of Deposit Treaty. It allowed the U.S. to use the port of New Orleans. New Orleans is important because that's where the Mississippi River meets the Gulf of Mexico. United States needs that. After France regains the territory, the United States needs a new treaty. But at the same time, in France, Napoleon wants to use the new territory to grow crops to feed his troops. His plans are to take over Europe. But with the slave revolt in Haiti, he changes his plans. It had cost him too much money in troops and supplies and time to try to retain Haiti. He gave up. He needs the money at this point. Thomas Jefferson, now the third president of the United States, sends ambassadors to negotiate a new treaty with France so the United States can use the Mississippi River. He authorizes up to $15 million to pay for the port of New Orleans and to have the right of deposit all the time if the United States owned New Orleans outright. What happens next? The ambassadors are given a chance to purchase the whole Louisiana territory for $15 million. This sounded like a great idea. They were not expecting it. But they negotiate a treaty, and the territory is now part of the United States. How to pay for it is the problem. Jefferson had been opposed to Alexander Hamilton's earlier plan of refinancing the debt of the United States under George Washington's presidency. This had been a dividing point in the early formation of political parties. The Jefferson and the Democratic Republicans supported a strict interpretation of the Constitution, and the Constitution does not have a provision for buying large chunks of land. But we have to pay for it. Even though Jefferson had opposed to the loose interpretation of the Constitution, presidents can negotiate treaties. The United States sold bonds to finance the purchase. So for $15 million, less than 3 cents an acre, the size of the United States doubles. You can see here in this map the Louisiana Purchase and how this had been the original United States. This now doubles the size of the United States. After the Louisiana Purchase, Thomas Jefferson authorizes an exploration of the new territory. Meriwether Lewis and William Clark set off with a crew of about 26, plus William Clark's slave York and a Native American Sacagawea, to explore the new territory and searching for the ever-elusive Northwest Passage, still hoping for a waterway that would connect the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean.